All right. Um, Hello, everyone. Today we are launching Heroes Transformation, the game we've been kind of deving for about a month. Um, I forgot to check if this scrolling thing works. Oh, it probably doesn't work when I do that, huh? Anywho, um, I had some stuff planned to kind of celebrate the occasion, but unfortunately, my time is limited for this evening. So we're just going to kind of use this opportunity to kind of, reflect on how the game project went, how the designs were, whatnot. And let me just do this way. Well, that just made things worse, didn't it? That's fine. Anyway, yeah, we're just gonna talk about the game, how it went, what I learned, and what we'll be doing next. Because I'm not done making games. This was really fun. So for those who might have missed the original purpose behind the streams or this game even, Heroes Transformation was part of the very serious Juniper Dev Game Jam. The theme was Spin to Win, and it's actually, aside from Spooky Jam 2025, the first game jam where I had to actually work with a theme. So it was kind of intimidating, You got to work on a restriction. As you can see, we had a lot of funny ideas here. Beyblade was one of them at one point, which was, God, that would have been such an interesting game. Given that I don't think I had the skill set to make a Beyblade game interesting. But also, a lot of people. Oh shoot! Thank you for the follow. Wow, we hit our follower goal of 40. Um, that threw me off. I didn't think we were gonna hit our follower goal. Thank you. Anyway, Juniper Dev Game Jam, yeah. I don't know if you guys keep up with Juniper Dev herself, or if you follow me on Twitter, but I did repost her final video on the Juniper Dev Game Jam, and it turns out quite a few people made Beyblade games, so it's kind of a good thing we didn't go that route. There was also a couple other ideas based on toys I saw when I was a kid. Like there was I think calling it a Beyblade competitor is kind of a misnomer since it failed commercially. But Hot Wheels had a toy where you pulled a ripcord like a Beyblade, and you would put the tire on the ground, and the tire would roll based on how hard you pulled the ripcord. That was another idea. It probably would have been easy to make. I just chose not to do it. But that was kind of an interesting idea as well. The roulette wheel was kind of what we ended up going with. You got to spin something to earn something. That was kind of the idea. And after iterating on this and throwing together some other not so successful ideas, that's when we came up with game where your abilities are decided by spinning a wheel. Each ability has limited uses, and you got to spin the wheel to maintain your momentum. I do this. Let me add a source here. Window capture. There we go. So the idea basically starts with this fine gentleman here. So this was our base form. When you start the game, this is what you look like. Then you can transform into one of three forms. This is our fighter form. This is our gunman form. And this is our big ol' tank form, more or less. What was really funny about this project too was this is also like on top of being the first time I actually implemented melee combat in a game. This also ended up being the first game where I actually used motion capture. I think I talked about this in a couple of the Game Jam streams, but just to kind of cover all bases here so everyone has a chance to hear the funny. I want to say it was like 2 years ago. I bought a full body motion capture suit that was designed for VR. I think the intended use is for like VR chat and stuff like that. So it's kind of like it's not meant for crazy movement or anything like that, but it's really pretty good for what it is. And I've been meaning to find a reason to use it ever since I found a piece of software called, oh shoot, what was it called? It's on Steam. It's some kind of, hold on, I can pull up my Steam library from here. If I just go here and scroll down. Mocap Fusion. That was not a cheap purchase, by the way. How much does a license for that go nowadays? Like, they have a free demo that you can use, but like it doesn't let you export things, I think. Oh yeah, $100 for that software. I'll say it's worth it if you got the VR equipment for it, but if you don't have the VR equipment for it, it's already kind of pricey. But luckily I have a Quest 2 headset. Quest 2? Quest 3. I have a Quest 3 headset. So I've been looking for excuses to use it. But the other thing I was afraid of was I didn't know how to export animations properly. So during this game jam, I spent literally a weekend, not just working on like the 3D models and whatnot, but also learning about motion capture pipeline to Blender to Unreal. And a lot of lessons were learned from that. For one, don't ever export the mocap files as FBX files from Mocap Fusion. They have a mocap file format. I believe it's called is it AVI or MP? I don't remember what it's called right this second, but I'd recognize it immediately if I checked. But you got to use it. You got to export it on that format, then take it to Blender, convert it to FBX, then you got your animations. The other thing I had to learn was about applying not root motion, but locking the root. So that way the animation doesn't wander, because a lot of my animations, if my hand is myself, right? I'll walk while doing combat moves, but I don't want the actual animation to move. That's for the player. So I had to learn how to lock movement on Blender's 3D Grid. And that was a fun little lesson. It made development a lot better once I did that, because now I wasn't worried about janky animations or moving visually differently from what the player was actually doing. So that was neat. I ended up doing so much motion capture. I think I can actually pull up my folder and give you a number of how many animations I ended up having to do stunt work for. Let's see. Animations, here we go. Oh, did I already clean my folder? I already cleaned my folder. It had to have been okay, so each form had a idle animation. So that's oh, by the way, I mentioned there was 4 characters, right? So you got your too far. You got your base form. You got your red form. Got your green form. Got your purple form. You got your basic enemy, and then there's also, it's in the same folder, right? Yeah, it is. And then you also got the boss. So that is 5 different characters, right? And then for all 5, with a couple exceptions, there's some animations I was able to recycle between all the characters here. But I had to do a an idle animation, which was unique to almost every character, a walking animation, which was recycled for some characters. Other characters it had used unique animations for. That was brutal. Um, Light attack combo had to be a 3-hit combo string for the player character and the boss, but a 1-hit combo string for, excuse me, basic enemies. Heavy attacks, luckily a 1-hit thing. Hit stun, knockdown, which I think I mentioned it in my stream originally, but when I did my knockdown animations, I forgot I had a stunt mat. So I would literally just throw myself on the freaking carpet. That did not feel good the next day. Once the knockdown animation was done, there was also, for the hero character, there was all the special attack animations. And then there was also what ended up being scrapped, but the parry animations. Parrying got scrapped toward the end of development, unfortunately, so that was kind of a loss, but at least I, give it a whirl. It was worth a shot. Yeah, that animation pipeline was tough, but I'm glad I learned it, because now if I want to do humanoid animations in the future, I can kind of do a little bit of both handcrafted animation work and motion capture, since I now kind of understand how to do both. I might have to do a proper video on how I did that, because there's not a lot of documentation on Mocap Fusion that I found particularly helpful, so a lot of what I ended up figuring out, I kind of figured out on my own, and that was a bit much. Anyway, once that was all done, we can hide this now. So we ended up not making it to the Game Jam's due date. I documented all the work I did, but we missed the Game Jam deadline, partially because nothing was polished. It was so buggy, but also because it was the first time I had packaged the project. Unreal was taking forever to package the project, so I think if I remember correctly, I still haven't reviewed that VOD yet for the video I'm editing, but I think we started packaging it like 30 minutes before the deadline, and we ended up missing it anyway because the packaging just took so long, which is unfortunate, but that's just kind of how things go. So sad we missed the Game Jam, but honestly, it's not a huge loss. Missing a Game Jam is, sometimes a valuable lesson in, scoping. Because I've never been good at scoping my games. Here, actually, let me pull up my itch page, and I can kind of talk about it a little bit. Because, it's pretty clear what went wrong for each project. So if I do... Yeah, that'll do. Oh, shoot, that's way too big. Let me scale this up a bit. There we go. So for the first, let's call it a game jam. It's not really, but the first time I wanted to finish a game project, I did it with AZP, another zombie prototype. I basically told myself, you have 8 hours to make a game. I had so little experience in game dev. In fact, I didn't 3D model anything in this project. I basically found some 3D models on Pizza Poly. Great resource, by the way. Highly recommend. And then for the character, I went to Mixamo. You can even see that here. I went to Mixamo for the animations. And my idea was to basically make... the original idea for the game was Modern Warfare 3 Survival Mode, which if you haven't played, is basically just an endless wave defense kind of game where you earn money from kills to buy better and better guns, to survive longer and longer until you inevitably die. realized that 8 hours was way too little time to even make shooter NPCs. So I ended up making zombies. Um, and even that was almost like too much because I didn't understand the difference between collision profiles in Unreal Engine. So we ended up almost missing that one too. I'm going to pull my microphone closer, realizing I'm not that loud. There we go. But yeah, I think when we originally released the project, it was bugged to hell and back. You know, you couldn't buy certain guns, you couldn't actually buy ammo consistently. The enemies could sometimes hit you twice. It was a buggy mess, but it was a finished project, and that was what I wanted to do. I had never finished a project before, so as embarrassing as this game is, it does hold a special place in my heart for being the first completed project. The next game was Cafe de Arms, which was part of VTuber Tiny Jam 2025, hosted by Mossflower, who, a little bit off topic, he recently released Dungeon Bodega on Steam. And I say recently, it's been like, what, 4 months? 6 months? Anyway, check it out. It's pretty cool, and he's a genuinely fun personality to watch on his streaming channel on Twitch too. Anyway, Cafe de Arms was not my idea of a game. I tapped one of my friends and said, "Give me a game idea. I want to be in this game jam. It's like 14 days long or something like that." And he told me a coffee shop game where you run coffee shop during the day and hunt for ingredients against monsters at night. This project was what really got me to start understanding 3D modeling. Shout out to one of the channel regulars, Awen, for giving me tips and tricks a lot during this game jam. He's the reason that this Noodle Boy exists. Without his advice, I probably would have gone to Mixamo to get the character. Granted, I think all the animations are still from Mixamo, aside from one of the NPCs. Actually, all the NPCs that are monsters. All the creatures in the game, I did animate, but they're very primitive animations. Like, they bounce up and down, or their legs move like Minecraft. It's very, very rudimentary, but it was a great learning experience. This also taught me about Unreal Engine's game modes system, so that was really cool. But yeah, Cafe de Arms was a fun project, even if it did come out pretty sloppy. Then came Spooky Jam 2025 with Graveyard Monster Assault. This game was so bugged when I released it. Like, I didn't know that when you package projects, different bugs can show up. So that was a brutal lesson to learn through this one. But, you know, it's basically just a simple cover shooter clone with 3 waves of enemies or something like that. I basically ignored all the advice Awen had originally given me from Cafe de Arms when I was modeling all the characters and monsters for this game, and it really shows. Like, you can tell it's literally shapes just slammed together. But it was still a fun project to work on, regardless. Ocean War, man, this sure was a project. This was part of Mossflower's VTuber Tiny Jam 2026. And I tapped the same friend who recommended me Cafe de Arms as a concept. And he wanted me to replicate a game called Naval Ops Warship Gunner for the PS2. Hold on, I got a burp. Excuse me. Now, Naval Ops Warship Gunner, for those who definitely don't know, because I didn't, had a cool mechanic where you can place guns anywhere on your ship. But there's so much more to that game that I both knew at the time and didn't know at the time. That there was just no way in hell I was going to be able to even recreate a single level of that game for Mossflower's Game Jam, especially at my skill level at the time. But it was still kind of fun to learn about, you know, how you can place objects in the world, give player access to, how do I say this? Like, being able to interact with the world through your cursor via a user interface. That's something I didn't know was really possible, or at the very least, I didn't know how it could be possible in Unreal. But it was cool to learn that in this project. Now, I did do a bunch of dev streams to try and finish the project, or at least make a port to Unreal Engine 5. Truth be told, I think that project's going to have to go on hold. There's just a lot of stuff I need to learn to really flesh this game out further. So, the game jam version's on itch. It's something. And then the last game I learned from a quote-unquote game jam is a Dark Dungeon. So this game, in short, was an April Fool's joke. I gave myself, like, basically 2 days to make a game. And I think the stream title was something like Ocean War Release. And then it was just like, nope, I'm making a game. That's what we're doing today. And I ended up making a randomly generated dungeon with one enemy type. I did none of the models. I did none of the animations. All I did was make a dungeon generation system and shooter mechanics with AI. I would say I learned about dungeon generation, but honestly, I'm still not 100% sure I understand it. Like, I did it. I definitely did it. I don't think I understood and retained how I did it. It was a lot of like, this is what a lot of people do. I'm going to try and mirror it, but also see if I can learn about it and reverse engineer it for myself. And, well, it's a game. Anyway, we are now coming up on about 10 till. So it's about time that we prepare for what we're all here for. Let me hide my screen for just a second here. Because that's not what I wanted. Here, let me do it this way. So, I did finish making the itch page for Heroes Transformation. It's not on itch just yet. Or more accurately, it's not a public page yet. I gotta finalize it. But I put together some screenshots. I put together a little description. I added a little description about New Game Plus. Because the first time you run through the game, your forms are randomized, but when you finish the game, you can now choose your forms whenever you want to transform. So that's going to be pretty cool. And then I put together a concept book, and I put together the soundtrack, and I did put it behind a $1 paywall. Just to be clear, the game is free. If you don't want the concept stuff, you don't want the OST, you don't need it to play the game. It's completely free. I'm just putting it behind a paywall because I do want to start, to put it simply, I'd like to actually start working towards making a career out of making games. That's not what I wanted. And truth be told, I understand that currently none of my games are products I feel comfortable selling to people for money. So putting together, a little booklet and some music, that stuff I'm comfortable with releasing as like a small price thing. So if you don't want it, you don't need it. The game is free. It's on Windows, it's on Linux, and it'll be released in just a few minutes here. So, is there anything else I wanted to talk about? I feel like there was more I wanted to talk about. Oh, I do want to talk about the Linux version very quickly, because boy howdy, I was not ready for that. So the reason I made a Linux version for Heroes Transformation is because I have a couple friends who play games on their Steam Deck, which runs on Linux. And so they said, hey, can you start making your games on Linux so that way we can kind of play those? And I was like, yeah, sure, I can start doing that. So I released I packaged the Windows version. And once you do it once, the first time is like, 10, 15 minutes. The second time is usually going to be like 5 minutes. It's usually really quick. I had to go on an adventure just to enable the ability to package games for Linux. I had to go into Unreal Engine and enable Linux porting. That was technically step one, Then I had to go to Unreal Engine's developers page and get the SDK for Linux, install that, which also required going into the command console and typing stuff I don't understand because I've never used Windows command console for anything I understand. Once that was done, I could then export the game to Linux. But even then, I kid you not, I've exported the game for Linux twice, and it took an hour both times. It was so painful, but it's done. These games are uploaded as zip files, so when you hit the download button, you can say, no, just take me to the downloads. Select whichever one you want, and all you got to do is unpackage the zip file, and you can play the game. It's very simple stuff. Yeah, the screenshotting stuff of the page was pretty simple. I was gonna make a trailer for the game, but I'm already behind on editing the Game Jam video. In fact, it's still not done. I even put in like 5 hours on it this week, and it's still not done. But yeah, no trailer. It's just going to be my typical, here are some screenshots, here's a description, here's the downloads, go get it. Get it now. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got really to talk about. I'm on a time constraint for some real life stuff, unfortunately, so I'm not going to be able to stay and celebrate. But we can at least end the stream by releasing the game. I guess. Oh, yeah, there was something I wanted to talk about. So we're coming up to 2 minutes to the end, to the game's release, and I wanted to talk about what I'm going to be doing in the future, because I mentioned I wanted to do making games kind of a career. And so here's where I reveal my secret plan to take over the world. So for the month of August, I will unfortunately not be hosting any game development streams. It's just for the month of August, really. I just have some other personal projects I need to get done, including the Game Jam video for one. So I'll be using that month to get that done. There will still be some streams, particularly some gaming streams. But we'll be moving back to game dev streams in September. And when that happens, we will be working on, drumroll please, I don't have a way to make drum sounds next to my microphone. Maybe if I tap my hand? That just sounds wrong. Never mind, let's not do a drum roll. The next game project is going to be a remake of Café des Armes for Steam. And this remake is going to have I have a card here. You can't see it, but I'm holding a card. But it's going to basically feature all the core elements that I enjoyed about Café des Armes, day shift management, night shift management, customers, mixing ingredients, so on and so forth. But now there's going to be a pre-shift phase where you need to prepare the ingredients for serving to customers. There's going to be more freedom of movement in the day shift as opposed to the static layout that you see here. The game will be entirely first person, so that'll be a big change. The money you earn... Oh shoot, it's 6 o'clock. We need to release the game. I'll continue in a second. We gotta release the game. It's time to release the game. Public. Save. Cool. So now if we go to the game's page... Ta-da! Hero's Transformation has been released. Yay! So yeah, if you want to play Heroes Transformation, you can now go to itch.io, specifically kaijucon.itch.io/Heroes Transformation. I'll throw that in a tweet and a YouTube post after the stream. But yeah, the next game will be a Cafe d'Armes remake. Development starting in September, specifically September... We'll probably start September 6th. Yeah, that'll be the next big project. It's going to have a bunch of new features. It's going to have some new gameplay. And we're going to target a Steam release and make it my Steam debut. So if you'd like to keep up with that, just you can follow me on Twitter. You can follow on Twitch or YouTube, and I'll update the schedule board accordingly for when those dev streams start beginning. But yeah, thanks to everyone who tuned in, even if it was for a few minutes. Sorry this stream was so short. But yeah, this month will be a bunch of gaming streams, so I hope you'll stay tuned for that. Otherwise, I will see you all for the September dev streams. Thanks again for supporting me through the development of Heroes Transformation.